So chapter 11, the very last bit, number 25, the very last one. So we're going to speak about checking a mezuzah. Now, we've spoken about how important in 23, we spoke about how important the mitzvah mezuzah is, because it's a mitzvah that's every second, right? Not to say that other mitzvahs are not important, God forbid. Every mitzvah is important. But a mitzvah that lasts 5 seconds or an hour or 2 hours or whatever happens to be, if a person messes up, God forbid, so for 2 hours they messed up, or 1 day a week, or whatever happens to be. But the mitzvah mezuzah is 24/7. So it's an opportunity when it's done right that it creates a positive spiritual energy. You're fulfilling the mitzvah 24/2 every second. And if, God forbid, it's not done right, then a person is missing. That's why we need to be really careful. So mezuzahs I don't want to say wear out is perhaps not the right word, because they're not worn, they don't get wear on them per se, but the weather. And for those in Florida particularly, say humidity. Humidity is moisture is an enemy of stam. Stam is an acronym for Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, and mezuzahs. All these things. So moisture is the enemy. That's what cracks the ink, because the moisture makes the parchment expand, and then when it's less moist, it shrinks. The same extreme heat, extreme cold. You see, you have the same idea with the parchment expanding and shrinking, and that's what cracks the letters, or either makes it crack through it, or even cracks it to the extent that some of the ink falls off. So, those who have to fill in should be careful not to leave them in the car for extended periods. Hot car.
Rabbi, is the ink a special kind of ink?
Yes. Everything for tefillin mezuzahs has to be kosher. So the ink.
Where is the black from? Where is it from? The ink.
So it's made. Honestly, I don't know the recipe. I always buy ready-made ones. But
is it from a plant or an animal?
Yeah, it's all plant. It's plant-based.
Okay.
So what goes into the writing, the ink for the writing, is a specific ingredients, because it also has to sit on the parchment and not.
So one of the people who are making mezuzahs told us that the ink is made out of special berries.
Yes.
And I thought for some reason it was your son.
It could be.
He told us that it's made out of berries, and it's a very kind of long process of doing it, but it's actually a natural berry kind of extract.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you.
Sure.
About films.
Rabbi, you're fading in and out.
As well.
Yeah, your voices are going in and out.
I think your computer is freezing. I think it's freezing.
He's breaking out.
Yeah.
He's breaking out.
Okay. Are we any better now?
Yeah.
Sound better now? Okay.
Yes.
Hopefully that will help. Okay. So, as I was saying, everyone thinks their own kids are the best. But, I have another son who writes mezuzahs. And it could be, and writing, he has an unbelievable writing. But my oldest son, who spoke to you, talking about all-round general to do with safras, is something special. His qualifications in several areas of expertise, because writing, for example, and checking are two very different skills. So my son, who writes beautifully, it's not to say he couldn't check, but he's not an expert in checking, right? So, and my older son, he's painted the tefillin. He's made ink. He's made anything there is. You know, he's really there. So it's all kosher ingredients. But it's specific. Yes, it is berry based, but there's other ingredients also. But for the writing is specific recipe. For the, let's say, the black paint for the outside of the tefillin or the straps or the boxes, that doesn't have to be something specific. It just has to be kosher. So there was a very well-known Sofer, Rabbi Zirkand, who lived in quite a few places, but the last 20, 30 years of his life, he lived in Crown Heights. And he's passed away maybe a good 10 years ago now. But he discovered that there was a brand of spray paint for cars, for vehicles, that had kosher ingredients. And he used to use that to paint the tefillin boxes. He said the paint never chipped, never wore away. It was perfect. Never had any problems. So that's what happens. So,
Rabbi,
yes, Ben.
are we talking about Chav Daled in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch?
So I just we're up to Chav Hey, up to 25. I just mentioned that in Chav Gimel 23 we spoke about how important it is to be careful of this mitzvah in general, because it's a 24/7.
I have a question on Chav Daled.
Okay, sure.
I never saw anybody stand by the mezuzah and say the blessing that it says here.
Yeah, some people do, most people don't.
Everybody just runs through. He touches the
That's right.
mezuzah and
Everyone's
runs
in a rush,
through.
especially nowadays.
Right. So
God forbid to spend another 3 seconds by your doorway. You know, there's no
right.
time.
But you're supposed to say that whole 2 lines?
Okay, I'll be honest, I don't. My wife does, by the way.
Okay.
You know, it's not something that we live in the generation where you got to go full speed to the red light and then hard brake when you get
It's
there,
the
because
first time I hear about
God
it.
forbid
It's-
you should get to the red light at 2 seconds later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people do take the time to do it. It's a good thing to do if you can, and
Okay, thank you.
so as we said, so weather, heat, cold, and moisture. So a place like Florida that's hot and it's humid, or places where it snows, so you get extreme cold and potentially moisture can get in if snow sits on it. All these are the enemy of mezuzahs. So indoor mezuzahs hopefully don't get affected too much, but the outdoor mezuzahs can. And so therefore, number 25, Chafei, mezuzahs hayochid, mezuzahs of an individual. When I say individual, be a family also, what we mean is not a shul or a Jewish institution. We'll come to them in a moment. In other words, are privately owned on your house, on your whatever it happens to be. You should try and get it checked approximately twice every 7 years. So approximately once every 3.5 years, you check the mezuzahs. And generally that should be enough, unless you have extreme, person, God forbid, had a flood or something extreme happened, they might want to check the mezuzahs at the time. But if it's regular day to day, that should generally be sufficient. Rabim, but if it belongs to the community, so we don't put excessive bother on the community. It's they should check it twice every 50 years. Right, twice every 50 years. Yeah, David.
Yovel
I
is
either-
7 years, no?
Yeah, we said individual twice every 7 years, and for community, the once every 50 years. That's obligation. Person wants to check it out. Some people check that film every year. The mezuzahs every year. Sorry, David, you wanted to ask something?
I think I heard with
7 years.
I think I heard with mezuzah that before you go to sleep at night, you should put your hand on the mezuzah and say Lishru Ascha Kavisi Hashem.
Yeah, a lot of people have that custom. It's it's all the there's many beautiful things, and I don't want to and people should do as many as they can. He was sort of sticking to the strict halacha, and
Is that a Chabad? Is that a Chabad custom?
it's not only Chabad. There's other people do it also, but it's not in Shulchan Aruch. It's not in Shulchan Aruch. But that's why. Yeah, mezuzah protects us, and that's the idea that Pasuk speaks about the protection. But it's right. So in a public building,
I mean, I say the pasuk that's part of Kriya Shema.
Krishna Shalom Mitzvah,
It's
yeah.
not
So there's some
necessarily
people, many
getting
people
up.
do that. Yeah, some people do, some people don't. It's it's certainly a nice thing. So that is
Rabbi,
Hilchos
you said
mezuzah.
the mezuzah protects the whole house, correct?
Correct.
Not
Correct.
just the people inside. It protects the whole
Well,
house.
it protects the house, the belongings, and it protects the people, even when they're not inside. Even when people are outside of the home, there's certain protection. No,
whether they're Jewish or not.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, a non-Jew really shouldn't have a mezuzah, but it could be they live in a house where there's a mezuzah, because there's Jewish
Right.
people living there also. So, I guess so. It creates. I'm oversimplifying it, but in an oversimplification, we'll say it creates a positive spiritual energy,
Okay.
and that goes to the person. Now, does a positive always overcome a negative? It depends on how big they are. But you can have a very negative, but when it's another ingredient. Mezuzah together with the other mitzvahs of someone's, whatever person's doing, it has an incredible effect. Incredible effect. And there's been many people who had problems and were either they got mezuzah checked themselves or a tzaddik advised them to check the mezuzahs. And they found all kinds of things. There were people that was movement in the leg, and that word was cracked in the mezuzah. They fixed it. It's all kinds of things. It's Hashem runs the world, not the mezuzah runs the world. But sometimes when we have some there's a damage where we're getting our spiritual influence, it can have a flow-on effect. And and it's good to have the most amazing mezuzahs that one could possibly have. That's you have to make sure that by spending more, you have to make sure that you're actually getting more and not just being charged more. Right? Because unfortunately, it's also happens. Also, unfortunately, I'll just mention there are many very good Judaica stores who are run by very good and religious and well-meaning people, but those people may not have an expertise, which most people do not, in the laws of tefillin. And sometimes you have extremely good Judaica stores which sell very poor quality tefillin and mezuzahs, and possibly not even kosher. And not because they're trying to rip you off, God forbid, but they got ripped off. Right? They don't know. So really, I know that the primary Judaica store in Sydney and Melbourne, the two brothers, one in Sydney, one in Melbourne, they have everything checked by someone independent before they put it in the store, because like 95% other people, they're not experts in this field. And there are many places to do that, but it's
Breaking up again. Can't hear you. I think you are talking, but we cannot hear you.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. I guess I lost connection for a moment. I'm back. Everyone hears me?
We lost you,
Yeah.
now we hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
Got you now.
All right. Sorry about that. So there are some organizations, like for example, Rabbi Landau in Bnei Brak, who's known to give very high quality hechsher on food, kosher supervision. He also gives on mezuzahs and tefillin. So sometimes a lot of Judaica stores, that they know they don't have the expertise, but they buy these ones with the hechsher. Now, even one that is kosher, there's better quality. There's certainly nothing wrong with a Toyota as a car, but if you're looking for a Rolls Royce, it's not quite what you're looking for. And so you can have mezuzahs that are kosher, and you can have mezuzahs that are magnificent, and everything in between. And if one has the money to spend, I think it's definitely something to spend on. You have some people. Again, I'm not criticizing, God forbid. But there's some people who have all kinds of ornaments and fancy materials and all kinds of things in their houses, and the houses got everything, but then get the cheapest mezuzahs. It's like I'm not saying everyone does that, but it's, if someone is a spender, so spend on good things also. It's again, look, each main thing is a kosher mezuzah. We're certainly not going to be critical if anyone has gone to the effort, but if one has the means, they should try and have the most magnificent mezuzahs you can get. It's very rarely could you get a mezuzah worth having for under $80 today. Unfortunately, prices have actually jumped the last, actually because of COVID. Actually, sounds funny, but it is. There was two factors. Number one is, unfortunately, a lot of people passed away, and there's a lot of people who have been ordering Sifrei Torah to be written in the memory of those passed away, and it's taken a chunk of Sofrim out of the market. They're not writing mezuzahs, they're writing Torah scrolls in the memory of the deceased, and it's a supply and demand issue. There's more demand than is supply, so that's had an effect on the prices. And another factor was that the raw materials, primarily the cloth, the parchment, some places, small small businesses that made these materials, they didn't survive the financial strain of COVID. So again, there's less available, and so we can blame everything on COVID, right? It's also had an effect on those prices. So that's that. When they sell them cheaper, as the saying goes, if something's too good to be true, usually it is. It's not always the case. Not always the case. My son
Usually is.
Yes, usually is. My son was
That's all.
was before he was married, and he could afford to do it. Maybe he still does. I don't know, but he knew that a lot of places were selling tefillin mezuzahs for a certain price that really was subpar, and he could never sell that in good conscience. But what they would sell the next step up, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't the mitzvah, and they're not going to spend the extra. So he would do a lot of the work himself. I mean, it cost him time, and then sell at cost for the entry level. So it actually was too good to be true in a certain respect. It So there are people who try to do the mitzvah and to help and various things, but you know, you can get a mitzvah for $80. You get a mitzvah for $80. That's kosher, and it's good. And you can get mitzvahs for $300 also, and it can very well be worth the difference. You know, it's
I have a
it's not
question,
just,
Rabbi.
yeah, yes.
If you move into a place that the people that own the house are Orthodox, how do I find out, or how do I ask them in a polite way if their mezuzah is kosher? How
Well,
do you possibly?
if you move to a house, the first thing I would do is check the mezuzahs.
I know mine is kosher, and
Yeah.
the man who rented me the property is Orthodox.
Yeah.
I feel it. I would be insulting him if I asked him.
No, because
to check
mezuzahs
it
have to
or
be checked
kosher or-
regularly everywhere. You know, no, maybe not asking the way, but you know, as we said, mezuzahs are meant to be checked, you know, twice every 7 years. So there's nothing unusual about someone taking
So
down the
it's not
mezuzahs
an
and having them
insult. Yeah,
checked.
I wouldn't be hurting their feelings if I asked them.
I don't believe so. I mean, you might say, I mean, you could just say, you know, you've learned in class how you're meant to check the mezuzahs
That's a good
regularly,
idea.
and I'd
Okay.
like to do that. Do I have permission to take them down? And you know,
Yeah,
and I'd be very surprised if someone be offended by that.
that's a good idea.
I mean, some people get offended by everything,
Ah,
but
I don't-
most people be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it?
Can,
Your question?
can you tell me, can you tell me, please, if we can simply remove it from the wall, from whatever door
Yeah.
frame, and bring it to a rabbi to check and then to attach it ourselves, or it has to be a visit
No.
from a rabbi?
Well, you definitely can take it down and get it checked. Not most rabbis are not sofrim. It's a separate. You can take it to a sofa and get it checked, and you could put it up yourself. But there's also the issue. There also is an issue of knowing exactly where mezuzah should go. Now, if it's very straightforward, you know, your front door, and it goes to a room, open plan room, and there's just bedrooms off that. You know, it's all very simple. But many houses have ones that are, you know, you're not sure. So it doesn't hurt at least once to have someone come out and just make sure you got them all in the right place. Once you know they're all in the right place, let's presume you stay in that house for many years in good health, God willing. Then other times you take them down, you get them checked, you just put them back where they were. But I think it is worth, you know, having someone come and just make sure.
By right place, you mean Milan B'Kodesh V'Loi Meriden?
No, but I mean, what I mean is that there's sometimes there could be pillars, or the way that the rooms join, you know, should have gone that side or this side.
Oh,
You know, I'm just saying there could be not
We learned it not
straightforward
long
I
cases.
mean, not putting a mezuzah from the bedroom into the living room, or the living room back into a bedroom.
Yeah, no, I
Here
didn't
makes-
mean that. That's a good point. I'm going to mention that next. That's good point to mention. But first, I'm just speaking about actually having them affixed in the right spot. Having said that, it's a good point Isaac just made, is that when one takes them down, ideally, if you're taking to a sofa, I'm just saying this is the most practical way to do it. Put each mezuzah in its own snap lock case bag.
Yep.
And in the bag, you say bedroom 1, you put a little piece of paper that says bedroom 1, bedroom 2, front door, back door, what it happens to be. First of all, as I mentioned, we only go up in a hole that's not down, and if we have a doorway that for sure needed a mezuzah and one that was a doubt, it's not good to put the one that was on a for sure now put onto a doubt. Should go, you know. So that's number one. But number two, it's also good, you know, if you know, particularly if there have been any issues you weren't aware of, or different things, you know, when you see, you know, oh, this person was Muslim in their room that had this issue, and you see, oh, that, you know, and you know, maybe they had a health issue or something, God forbid. I mean, I want to, and you see it's in their stomach, and was the word of your stomach that was cracked, you know, and you know, it can just be a good thing to do. So for several reasons, I think it's very good to do that. But it's also
Like
good
you
just to
said
make sure.
before, that cloud of energy
Yeah,
that it
that's right.
creates, you want to put that back in its place.
Yeah. And it's also, it doesn't hurt to ask the person if you have the right mezuzah in the right place. Meaning, that's what I meant. A person might have got mezuzahs over the years from several places, and without being an expert in mezuzah, they'll look the same. But the Sefer will tell you, these three, they're much better quality than these other ones, than the rest of yours. Or there's one, it's like technically kosher, but it's not so great. So the one that's technically kosher, not so great, you may decide, you know what, from now on, I'm going to put that on the garage door, and the really good one is going to go on the front door in the bedroom. So it's also worth anyway. So
Considering.
it's
I
worth considering.
suggest the one that's not so great not to use.
Well, if you're in a position,
You're breaking up again, sorry.
and,
Must be a loose wire or something.
if it is technically
By you.
You're breaking up.
Rabbi, we can't hear you at all. I can't.
People
You,
I'm sorry.
you're still breaking up.
Yeah. How about now? It's better now?
Yes, now it's
Yes.
good.
Okay,
Now
I
it's
see everyone
good.
else. I have to apologize. The internet here is down, and I'm hotspotting on the phone. So I apologize. It's trying our
Don't
best.
move any wires.
No, we're not moving. We're staying where we are.
In the
But,
old days, you held a wire like this on top of the television set.
That's right. Yeah. So it's
Is
just
it possible for our Rabbi Smith to kind of direct us to someone who can check the mezuzah? Are people,
Yeah.
experts like that are, available almost
Well,
in
look,
every
I'm sure he
community?
knows whoever is available in the area. I'm sure he knows. And again, if you my son, I'm not trying to look for business for my son, so I don't want to keep putting him forward. But it's there are people. There are people. I'm sure
And-
Robert Smith will know others
I
as
mean,
well.
that's part of it also. To have your mezuzahs checked or your tefillin checked is you're helping to contribute to the Jewish community and letting another Jew make a living also, which is a healthy thing. So
Okay. Yeah. Baruch Hashem.
But can you tell me, because almost every synagogue, store, gift shop has just the cover, just only the top part. Is
Yes.
it possible to buy the inside, the scripts, the really
Yeah.
important part? And what should be checked for kosher? Is it everything or just only the writing inside?
It's just the
Yes,
writing. The case can be
Can I
any.
butt
yes,
in?
sure.
Can I butt
Yeah.
in?
Yes.
Rabbi Smith, I bought the mezuzah that I needed from him, and there was a man around the corner from his house that checks to make sure it was kosher.
Oh,
And-
thank you,
yes.
Susan. Mhm.
And Rabbi Smith was very kind and gave me made sure that everything was fine. That's why when I came to this new house, I said to the owner, I have a kosher, I know this is kosher. He said, well, I know mine are too. So I didn't say a word. I didn't pursue, if you know what I mean.
well, no, when you leave a house, if you know another Jew is following you, you're not supposed to take your mezuzahs with you.
That's why when I
Supposed to-
came here, there was a mezuzah here already, you see.
Yeah.
Because somebody that was here was also Jewish.
Yeah.
When I rented it the second, so it's,
Also, there's been times I've rented and I've taken down the mezuzahs that were there, put up my own. When I left, I put them back.
Right.
And how many?
That's an idea.
Sorry, how many mezuzahs is it? Any specific number or it on
Well,
every
it's
door
how many
part?
doorways you have.
It's a doorways.
It's how many
Okay, I
doorways you have.
understand.
How many
And
bathrooms you
everything-
have?
Yeah.
Subtract the bathrooms. No, you don't
So-
put
Right,
mezuzah on the
I
bathroom.
know, I
Yeah, that's
know
right.
you cannot.
That's right.
Yes,
So-
yes,
so,
thank
yeah,
you.
so
a
it's-
good
And the
it's-
closet, you have to
Now,
dance, see whether
if
it's
a
big enough.
person is in the position to be able to get all mezuzahs at once, then that's great. Some people are not. And then you have to prioritize. You know, I'm getting one now, get another one next. And so then, you know, a front door first, then a bedroom, then where you eat, you know, these type of things. And the ones that we do out of doubt would go last. And maybe they could have a cheaper mezuzah, and you get a better mezuzah for the ones that are for sure. So
The garage.
you know, there's a lot of
So
a lot of
Rabbi
factors.
Warnick told us that somebody came from a house with 70 mezuzahs. So
Yeah.
it depends on the number of those.
That's right.
The 9 Nahara.
Yep. It's one of my daughters went to Crown Heights for Simchas Torah, and she'd been a counselor in camp, and she went to visit one of the campers, and the house had 26 bedrooms.
The 9 Nahara.
Yeah, David. Yeah.
A lot of the times a person makes a mistake with the height of the mezuzah.
Yes.
The height of the mezuzah should ideally be, unless it's an unusual doorway. If you measure the height of the doorway of the door frame, and you divide it in thirds, so let's say it's 90 inches. There's 30 inches, 30 inches, 30 inches. It should go in the bottom of the top third.
Right.
Right.
So we learned that, and that's right. So the bottom of the
learned it
mezuzah is at
way
the
up.
bottom of the top third, correct? And
Unless
not
it's an unusual height.
higher. Technically, go anywhere in the top third except for the top tefach, top fist width. But if you can measure and get it exact, that's even better.
And if it's an unusual height, it should go around the shoulder, where the height of your shoulder.
Yeah.
A
Cool.
lot of people put the mezuzah too high for children. They think it's like a big. They want to put it on theirs like high up, and it's like it's in that third, but it's so high that the kids can't reach it. Whereas if they made it a little lower inside that third, that the children can still reach it, and it's still kosher.
All right. So Simon Yud Beis, chapter 12. Hachonis Haguf L'Tfila Makoymes Sharodis Parasham. So 2 topics: preparation of the body, one's body for prayer, and preparation or what the requirements for the place where you're going to daven. So we're talking about being clean. So today, Baruch Hashem, we have plumbing, and so a lot of the issues that are going to be mentioned aren't so relevant. We hope. Right. Aleph, number 1. Ksiv. It's written. Right. It's in Amos. It says, Hikoin likras Elokecha Yisrael. Prepare to meet your God, O Israel. So the Jews, one should prepare ourselves to meet Hashem. Hayrish, what does this mean? This means a person should prepare himself before Hashem, blessed is He. When a person davens, they should wear respectable clothes. Again, obviously there are some people with the best clothes they have are rags. Unfortunately, God forbid, we should never know from such things. So we're not criticizing one, but someone who's been doing their gardening and they got sweaty, muddy clothes, and he has other clothes to change into, should probably change before they daven. That's what we mean. You wear something respectable, and that can also change in time and place. What you want, what one wears. When he goes to daven, she wears something respectable. Similar to how someone would go to a respected like officer, high official. So for men, for an example, we would strongly encourage, like a suit jacket. Doesn't have to be this necessarily suit matching, but a jacket. Some climates it's a little bit difficult sometimes, but when possible, it's always interesting. I see certain people when they go to work, there's the very expensive suits and the ties and the cufflinks, different things, and yet they got a shul and the jeans and the and the more it's again I'm not criticizing anyone. Everyone has their reasons and different things, or perhaps they don't understand or they don't realize. But when we say the Shemon Esrei, the Midah, we're standing before the King of all kings. So we should try and dress in a way that we would stand in front of someone, if we went to an important event or meet an important person. Now, if a person, they're not able to go to shul for whatever reason, and they're davening at home on their own, should try and dress himself appropriately. And in a place where they go with a with a gartel, it's where men wear a gartel, they wear some type, it's like a belt for davening. Well, that's the custom of the place. Also, this palish yachus atzmoi. It's forbidden for a person to daven without wearing that. Again, in other words, it's talking about what's the today. I wouldn't say there's a place where everyone does it, because today all Jews are mixed up. In every place you have Sephardim, Ashkenazim, and 10 different types of Sephardim and 20 different types of Ashkenazim, and there's no really, you don't very rarely have the custom of a place that this city, this is the custom. It's pretty much doesn't exist anymore. But if there was a place that they were a gartel, then you must wear a gartel. But if it's a place where today, those who wear one, those who don't. It's really not the biggest issue in the world. But that's how it works. Okay. So the idea is that we should go in a respectable way. Base number 2. It's good to give some tzedakah before davening. Now that doesn't mean you have to give $1,800 checks 5 times a day. Even to put 1 coin in the tzedakah box. In other words, we're going to explain it more, but the idea is that before I ask Hashem for my needs, I should think about someone else's needs. That's really the primary idea behind it. Shnam, as it says, Ani b'tzedek echaz panecha. As for me, with tzedek, which means righteousness, literally, but it's the same root as the word tzedakah, I behold your presence. And I'll just pause for a moment to point out that although tzedakah is often translated as charity, it's a very poor translation. Right? So we just mentioned the word tzedakah comes from the word tzedek, which means righteous, correctness, the appropriate thing to do. In other words, if I have more than I need, and that's not only financial, it could be financial in goods, in time, in expertise, whatever happens to be. If I have more than I need and someone else is lacking, okay, if I only have enough, a person only has enough food for themselves to eat, there's no reason to give it away, and then they'll be starving. But whatever a person has in whatever area more than they need, and someone else is lacking, it's the right thing to help out. And without getting too philosophical, often people ask, why does she make the world like this? How come people are lacking and there's people without and people who don't have things? So Hashem, in his kindness, is giving us the opportunity to be partners in creation. Hashem deliberately makes the world a little imperfect. In other words, it's not quite complete. And we have the privilege, the opportunity to be able to put the finishing touch and complete creation. And if everyone actually did that, well, not even everyone, even the over majority of people did that, there actually wouldn't be anything lacking. the world produces more food than is required for every human being on earth. Just what happens is corporations, if there's too much supply, they plow it under because, they don't want the prices to go down. This is, the problem in the world at the moment is not that we're lacking things. What we're lacking is humanity. That people should have humanity and care about other humans. That's before we even go to terrorists and different things. I mean, just about even on a simple level, what we're lacking is that there are people who, and those corporations that plow it under, so let's say the prices did go down. They're not going to suddenly be now living on the streets. It just means, did the corporation make 300 million profit or 250 million profit? It's
a question of degree.
Yeah, that's what it is, and although we didn't come here to study quotes of Winston Churchill, right? We came here to learn Torah. But I always he said that democracy is the worst system of government except for all the rest. Right. So I'm not proposing.
And he also said, I'm a simple man. I simply like the best.
All right. So I'm not proposing that we all go to socialism and and anarchy and and overthrow the world. I think although nothing's perfect when Mashiach comes, we have a reasonably good system in the Western world. We just need people to just think more about others. And how do we change that? To a large extent, all one can do is do what they can do. And again, positive energy creates positive energy. People see someone do something. There's a beautiful children's book. It's obviously a little exaggerated, but it gives an idea to children to show how important you think that there's something you do doesn't make a difference, but it can. And in this children's book, I'm not going to be able to tell you the exact order because my young kids are getting a little bit older now. And but I think someone dropped something and a kid picks it up and returns it. And there was a neighbor saw from the window, and that inspired them to go do something. Right? And someone saw them, and that inspired them to go do something. And someone saw them, and so on and so forth. And it's a whole nice story how it goes around in a circle. And okay, life isn't as simplistic as that, but it is like that to a certain extent. When enough people are doing something positive, it creates, first of all, peer pressure, but it creates an energy, creates that's how society changes. Society changes when enough. How does something become fashionable or a trend or a worldview in society? When enough people hold of that or contribute towards that, it becomes a norm, right? And so if we can all do what we can do, it's always going to at least grab a few more people, and then we have larger mass, and hopefully that grabs another person or two, and so on and so forth, till eventually, God willing, we can change. That's changing the society. So a person should give tzedakah before they daven. They should give to someone else. Think about someone else. Gam yikabel love koydem kol tefillah. They should also accept upon themselves before they daven. Mitzvahs v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. To love your fellow Jew as yourself. And there are many people who actually say this every morning, right? It's in many Sidurim, printed in many Sidurim, including the Tzilas Hashem, the Chabad said is printed, the Rizal, the great Kabbalist, the 1500s encouraged that it should be said. Actually, not just, he's talking about a person should accept it upon himself, but we're talking, what the Rizal encourages a person should actually say the words. Because when you say something, it has a bigger effect than thinking about it. So a person actually says, I take upon myself to love my fellow Jews myself, and then follows that with an action of giving tzedakah. This really has an effect on oneself. V'yikaven have intention le'ehov es kol echod miYisrael k'nafshoy, to love every Jew like their own soul. And before we get into anything negative, just want to mention, I mean, that in fact is reality. You know, every Jew, we have a nefesh elokis, we have a godly soul, a certain type of soul that a Jew has, a Jewish soul. And it's enclosed in our body. That's what makes us alive. It's our consciousness, it's who we are. But there is a part of our soul that is never enclosed in our body. And that part of the soul, at its peak, is connected to every other Jewish soul. It's to a certain, just give a parable, it's like we're all branches of a tree connected to the trunk. They're actually physically connected. And the same way, if when you're hammering, you accidentally hammered your thumb, so the right hand hits the left hand. If the left hand, now you go grab a knife and start stabbing the right hand, God forbid, people would say the person's insane, because it's your own body. It's one body. And what we have to realize is that every Jew is in fact one body. And unfortunately, sometimes the materialism, the whatever it is of this world mixes up. And, just as we've seen recently, unfortunately, these terrible things happening in Israel at the moment. But if we look a week before that, there were protests in Israel. There were people talking about civil war. There was like this incredible, when the tragedy hit, now there's a unity government, everyone's on the same side. Because what happens, when tragedy happens, all the externals, no one cares about anymore. Someone, God forbid, gets told they've got a week to live.
We're losing you again, Rabbi. There's no volume. There's no audio. You're frozen. The last thing we heard was a week to live, and then you're cutting out.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah, 3 seconds.
Okay.
You said there's a week to live.
We're back now? We're back now?
Yeah.
Back
Yeah.
now, Baruch Hashem.
Yeah. So saying, when if a person would find out they have a week to live, God forbid, they don't run into work, to try and do another deal. All of a sudden, their real priorities come to the fore. They're thinking about their family. They're thinking about the things they wanted to do with their life, didn't have a chance to do, right? Because all the things that they perhaps spend a lot of time and energy on, because they've just got caught up with life, but it's not what's truly important to them. It's not what they truly are. And unfortunately, what happened is that before the tragedy, we had split, and people were fighting and pushing each other and different things. And then what happened was that when the tragedy happened, that made people realize all those things are really not important. We really are one people. And that's far more important than any of these differences. And I think the challenge the Jewish people have, it could be everyone has, but the parents that we have is we need to have this realization, even when there's not a tragedy or emergency. Right? We have to be able to keep that in focus, even when things are going well, God forbid. And that's part of what this is, by saying this every morning, that I'm taking on the mitzvah Havas Yisrael, to love my fellow, and following that through by giving to someone or to an organization that benefits the community.
You lost you.
The last thing we heard
That's
was
helping
benefits the
remind
community.
me, as more people that do that, that's what's going to keep. Okay. Is it better now? Sound?
Yep.
No. Yep. Good. So I'm going to say, when we give something to benefit a person or the community, but that helps focus me on the reality. Every Jew is an extension of myself, or part of one body. And the more people that do that, the more we're going to have a united Jewish people, even when things are going well. And God willing, they should just go well. Right? So we need to do this. So what I said is in general. What he's going to say here is there's another aspect. Im chas v'shalom yesh piru levavos yishalom ata. If there is, God forbid, problems, the dissension between the Jews below in this world, as gam lamayla ein his achdus, then also above in the spiritual realm, there's no unity. By bonding, by having unity in this physical world, this helps. I won't say create the unity in the spiritual because it's already there, but it helps bring it out that achieves something actuality. So this causes that even our prayers are united. Instead of being one person davening or one shul davening, it's now all Jewish people throughout the world because we're all united in our source. And through having all our prayers, this brings favor in front of Hashem. And just to also to explain this idea, as parents, those children, we know sometimes children can be a little bit, they're not always as well behaved as they could or meant to be. Kids are kids. But what hurts a parent the most is when the children fight each other. Sometimes even more than if they did something not nice to the parent. If parents, God forbid, we should never know from such things, see like a feud between their children, that's the most painful experience. And when the children are together, they're unified, that gives the most happiness to the parents. And so Shem also, when we're unified, this gives such nachas to Hashem. This is, by the way, if you look, we've had recently in the Torah reading, not last Shabbos, the one before, we had two events. We had the flood, and we had the Tower of Babel. Right. So the flood, people were hurting each other. They were fighting each other, and the world got destroyed. And the Tower of Babel, they waged war against God. And they didn't get destroyed. They just got split up and, problem taken care of, and they got different languages. If this would have been an earthly king, the people who rebelled against the king would be punished far worse than the people who were hurting each other. Right? So how come, by Hashem, how was different? From this point that we said. But Tower of Babel, even though they were rebelling against Hashem, but everyone was united. When the children are united, even if they're against the father, there's... So we took care of the problem. Made them have different languages, different ideas, so they weren't able to work together anymore. But when society is destroying itself and people are just killing each other in the streets and theft, rape, pillage, just total breakdown, people can't live together, then that's when there had to be a reset. Okay. Gimel, number 3. Ksiv, it also says, Shemoi raglecha kasher teilech habeis Elokim. Guard your feet when you go to the house of God. So what does that mean? So our sages taught us a Messiah, a teaching they had from Mount Sinai. Well, not from Mount Sinai, this is from King Shlomo. Raglecha doesn't mean literally a feet in this pasuk. It's just a polite way of saying the openings of the body that are between the legs. So what does that mean? L'chein tzarich livdoik es atzmai koyin tefillah im eino tzarich lasis rochav. What this means is that a person should take care of their bodily needs, their bodily functions, before they go to daven. If a person feels even a little bit that they need to go to the bathroom, they're not allowed to daven until they have relieved themselves. Right? It's in front of an earthly king, if you put on a straight face, they don't know the difference. But Hashem knows everything. And if a person is, they're basting and they're holding on, and it's a certain disrespect. But and if a person even study Torah, if they really need to go, they really need to go. It's not nice, it's not respectful. Now, if a person didn't, if a person prayed when they did need to go, so it's if a person would be able to, it says, to walk a parsa, it says just over an hour. In other words, if a person, they needed to go, but they could wait afterwards, then the tefillah is accepted. The davening is accepted, even though they need to go a little bit. But if not, if a person, the second they finish davening, they have to run, then a tefillah b'divid im ispalo. Then even if he did daven, tefillah also to Ava, his tefillah is a ta'eva. They often use the word abomination. I don't know why that word got picked as a translation, but in other words, it's totally disrespectful to daven like that. Sarach lachsel is palo, and a person needs actually to daven again. But yesh omrim, though those that say shim yachol lamoid as asma shir parsa afilu chatchila mutal ispalo.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What if somebody is diabetic and they have to go?
So a person should pause their davening and go. And so we've got a whole chapter on it, but just in short, look, a person should try and go before they start. And even besides that, a person can sometimes eat something that didn't agree with them, and all of a sudden, unexpectedly, you need to go, and you need to go rather urgently. And so a person should quickly go, and if we're in towels to fill, and they should take it off, and
Thank you. That was just for point of
interruption would be more
information.
respectful.
I'm curious about something. If you take, if that has to happen, do you have to
Yeah.
start all over again?
No, not necessarily.
No?
There are certain parts of davening, and we're going to get through the next few chapters, so it's not going to be today. There's certain parts of davening that if certain parts of davening, there's no problem to have an interruption at all. There's certain parts of davening, if the interruption is longer than it takes you to say that part, and a part doesn't mean, a paragraph, part means a whole section, then you need to start the section again. But if the break is shorter, then you would just continue where you left off. And there will be certain parts of davening.
You're breaking up again.
The Shemona Esrei, I mean, that person, whatever, if they really had to go and stop in the middle, they would start the Shemona Esrei.
You broke up again, but the time is finished too.
Rabbi, you're breaking up on us.
So
This is all breaking up.
Rabbi, you're going to have to repeat everything that you said in the last 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
How's the sound now? Breaking up.
Good.
It's okay. But
I
can
don't
we
know.
hear?
Sing.
Don't have a break. Certain parts of davening section. Only then you'd have to start. And then there might be, for example, the Amidah, you know, if a person had to interrupt there, they will start that small part again. So we'll get there as we go through there. But anyway,
we were talking about that yesterday.
I guess we're already going over time and the connection's not so good. So I wish everyone a wonderful week, and God willing, next week the internet will be perfect.
Thank
Have
you,
a good day.
Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Rabbi, thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.
The big brother said.